It's just before 2 a.m. on August 13, 2018. Shanann Watts arrives home from a business trip to Arizona. This is the last time anyone other than her murderer will see her alive.
We have 2 kids, we live in Colorado, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me.
Outwardly, Shanann, husband Chris, and children, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, were the ideal family. But that night, Chris Watts would strangle his wife, smother their children, load their bodies into his truck, and dispose of them at his worksite. I'm Dylan Howard, investigative journalist.
Hello and welcome to this special presentation. The murder of Shanann Watts and her daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, and an unborn child, is one of the most shocking homicide cases of modern times. Not only for the fact that they were murdered by Shanann's husband and father of their 2 girls, Chris Watts, but for the cold, calculating, narcissistic way he subsequently tried to pass them off as missing persons. Here now, in a world first, we are going to show you how America's most evil dad was finally brought to justice through over 200 hours of actual police body cam and surveillance footage. And along with our expert panel, we are going to pick apart this investigation as it happened in real time, identifying each crucial moment and explaining its significance in cracking the case and exposing Chris Watts as the monster he is. What we're going to watch here is law enforcement in action every step of the way.
We're watching approximately 5:45 a.m. video from the neighbor of Chris Watts, and we could see Chris Watts backing his pickup truck partially into the garage. And we know now that he's loading the truck with the lifeless body of Shanann Watts and his children, who by Chris's account are still alive. But you cannot see that. You know that's what's happening. You simply see him moving back and forth.
Can we determine anything from his body language?
Yeah, we can determine about his thought processing, how fast his mind was working, because it shows us how fast he's walking. So he backs the car up, or the truck up, but he backs the back up first, right? So that's already concealment right there.
How you guys doing?
Hi.
Here, Nicole?
One of the crucial moments that helped crack this case was this woman.
Yes.
Okay, so what's going on?
So my friend, we were out of town for a business trip this weekend.
Right.
And I dropped her off at 2 o'clock this morning. She's 15 weeks pregnant. She wasn't feeling well, and she had a doctor's appointment this morning at 9, and I told her to let me know if she needed me to take her. She's got 2 little girls. And she was very distraught over the weekend, wasn't eating normally or drinking, and we kept trying to force it on her because she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband and her supposedly are separating, but she didn't know this. She thought they were just having issues. He disclosed that to me today.
Okay.
As I called him and I was like, have you talked or heard from Shanann since you left for work this morning? Because I can't get
The goal in presenting a case is to take a jury or a judge there. There's nothing better than video that goes to the very moment when the officers arrive and see Nicole Atkinson panic-stricken.
Hey, Chris, Officer Coonrod for the police department. So, do you have any idea where your wife is? Right. What my concern is, her car's here. They're saying she is diabetic. I don't want her. She's upstairs and can't respond. Okay. About how far out are you? Okay. All right. Scott, how you doing?
This is the first glimpse at Chris Watts.
He had no idea law enforcement was going to be at the house when he arrived.
Once he saw other people in the yard up front, then what is a person that's trying to project as if they're innocent? They're going to say, I'm really involved and I'm really interested, so he's going to sprint and show that action motion. But then you look at his facial expressions, there's no stress or pain or suffering in his forehead, and you look at his mouth, it's very flat and non-expressionless.
He goes inside the car for a very brief moment in time.
He did not know the police were going to be there. He has now re-entered the crime scene. and he looks into the car, maybe to feign that he's looking for some form of evidence.
One of the things that I'd like to point out is look at her friend. She's up close to the interviewer, so she's actively pursuing, helping out, she's pointing her hands.
Chris Watts was in his house and the crime scene for over a minute, unfettered by law enforcement. He could have moved a piece of significant evidence. He could have destroyed a piece of evidence in that time.
Where's Chris? He's got his back turned and he goes and walks into the other room.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that he is separating himself from what is being spoken at that time. He's wanting to deflect. So anytime he wants to walk away, he'll either turn his back or he'll busy himself in his cell phone.
Well, any friends you know she would be hanging out with? I mean, I know. I guess her parents are out of state.
Across country, North Carolina, Emitrax. This time she takes for migraine. She took more Emitrax this last month than she ever had before, but that's just because she was in North Carolina with the humidity and everything like that. She was there for 6 weeks, and we got back.
These are things that he just seems to be filling the air with some biographical information, but he's still not panicking. His daughters are missing, and Shanann is missing, and he's just providing with some, in my opinion, useless information that goes nowhere.
Monday or Tuesday, and then she flew out to Arizona Friday morning, and then she got back last night about 2 a.m. Flight got delayed. She left about 11. She got here at 2.
Okay.
And I went to work this morning about 5:15, 5:30.
What he's telling the police is that we know she got home just before 2 a.m. He left the family home at 5:27 a.m. So what happened in those 3 hours?
What do you do?
I work at oil gas and dark
What do you do for them?
operator.
Long days then?
Yeah, I definitely yeah. I have no clue whatsoever what your take is local. No, I doesn't make any sense at all. I'm not a boss. I don't know where she's at, where the kids are at.
Dispatch for 91.
He's now starting to panic. He becomes very wide-eyed. He's looking down into his phone. He's pacing and rocking back and forth, something we see him do later when he gets nervous.
What time do you work?
Usually, once I get to work, it's like 6:30 to 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Physiologically inside, the way I liken it to is like a teapot. You know, the water starts to boil, and then all of a sudden you know what the truth is, and then you have to conjure up a lie. It creates this physiological response.
Do you usually watch the kids, or you have daycare watch them? Or?
She usually watches the kids at the house.
Say hi. You don't want to say hi? So I just wanted to come on here live. Say hi.
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 You guys have any kind of issues, marital issues?
Her husband and her supposedly are separating, but she didn't know this. She thought they were just having issues. He disclosed that to me today.
We're not their separation.
You are? You guys filed yet or anything, or just talking about it?
No, we're gonna sell the house. We're separated.
How's that going?
It's going
Civil for the most
civil.
part, or tell you anything about leaving, moving out?
Not moving out. I mean, the last time I talked to her was this morning. She said she's gonna take the kids to a friend's house, and that's where she was gonna be. And then I've texted her today and never heard anything. But cars
Right.
here, unless somebody came and picked her up. But the people that I know, nobody's heard from them, nobody's seen them.
Right.
They've spoken to Nicole Atkinson, who says that there was trouble in the marriage, which is a key revelation. They're taking this back to station, and what are they doing with it?
They would be evaluating everything they're seeing. They're seeing a husband who is not acting in any way consistent with that part of a concerned husband. They're seeing a father whose children are missing. There's police all over his house. He's not acting concerned. Now you learn that there's a looming separation.
I've got my detective.
Now
coming.
you may have a motive. And that changes, again, the focus onto Chris Watts.
Immediately we can see something strange is going on here. For a start, Shanann's friend Nicole seems markedly more concerned about her than her husband is. She's the one who called the police. She's the one trying to track her down. And then there's the question of what he was doing for that 1 minute and 8 seconds alone inside the house. And third, his body language. He seems agitated rather than worried about where his wife and 2 children might well be. The police may not have realised the significance of this at the time, but it was all to prove shocking and horribly significant later. The disappearance of Shanann, Bella and Celeste Watts was riddled with odd questions from the start. One of the crucial moments that helped crack this case was this woman.
I called, I texted, her car's in the garage.
Last time I talked to her was this morning. She said she's going to take the kids to a friend's house.
Our expert panel is going to track live police footage and analyse events as they unfold. Their expertise will give an unprecedented insight into how detectives cracked one of the most shocking murder cases in recent history. The disappearance of Shanann, Bella and Celeste Watts was riddled with odd questions from the start. Not only where they might be, but why Shanann had left her phone, keys and car behind. Why wasn't her husband more concerned? And what was going on in their personal life? But now things were about to get an awful lot more awkward for Chris Watts, as his neighbour's security camera footage shows no sign of Shanann and the girls leaving the house. And this is crucial to the investigation.
What we have here is Chris Watts traveling over to his neighbor's house, and he's going to review his neighbor's footage. We have the compelling nature of the footage itself. Then zoom back and see Chris Watts reacting to the footage. That is compelling, earth-shattering evidence against Chris Watts.
But what I don't get is he's barely looking at the footage.
But because he's afraid to look at it because what it might reveal. So part of it is that deflection, right? So what I don't know, maybe I don't need to know. So he turns his back to it and he only kind of glances every now and then to kind of get caught up. And then he distracts himself on the phone.
I get cars driving from this street, This is him at 517.
We park out there on the side. I just want to get everything back in. Be easier to lug everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in.
This is really important because this is a cluster. This is a high-stake moment. Now he knows that they've got it on tape. That, his mouth, you see, kind of like curled his lips in. That's deep emotional distress, which is coupled with the hands on top of his head and pacing. That's a cluster gesture, and we can detect deception in 5 seconds or less. We're looking at least 3 different indicators from a stimulus, and that was the stimulus.
I can see where someone tried to jimmy this flathead screwdriver.
But if any action would have happened, any cars or anything left your house, I would have known.
Like right in there.
Oh, it'll pick up.
It'd be close well.
Yeah, we can pick up cars from this way. I get anything coming this way, they can just turn.
You can toss out the theory she went to the doctor's appointment. You can toss out the theory that she went to the pool. She never left the home.
But I would have caught her walking out.
The only way she would have left the home was in that truck, and that's exactly how she left the home.
Once the home surveillance video stops, a fetus, ironically, comes on screen. And for the very first time, we learn
Pregnant as well.
that Shanann was pregnant.
How far along?
14, 15.
To me, in watching this video, it's almost certain that Nate, the neighbour, has worked it out. And do you think, Jared, at this point, police too have already worked it out?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna get his info real quick. No.
Rock the back and forth, and if you look, other boats and stuff in and out of the garage.
Right.
And it doesn't look like he came from that here. It looks like he came from down the street. And the other thing that doesn't make sense is why would he go past their car?
When somebody is nervous, they give them more information. So they are constantly trying to appease you, and they're watching your reaction to see whether they've convinced you or not. So they're actually reading you at the same time. Like when he's talking more in depth, he's waiting to get that signal from you that that you got it. And so that in itself, then he rewards himself. You may even see a smirk pop out. So that's what we call duping delight.
This is Officer Goodman, Frederick Police Department.
And this is Chris Watts. I was trying to call you back from my personal phone.
We're just trying to get some of your wife and kids' information entered in, put some alerts out there. I just need to get some information about the kids.
At this stage of the investigation, there is intense media interest 30 hours after the disappearance of Shanann Watts and their 2 children. And as time goes on, the interest becomes significant, and the media begins to take account of what's taken place at this home. This is entirely significant to me because I have watched cases before where fathers have murdered their children and spouses and have feigned what I would call crocodile tears. But he doesn't do that.
No, he doesn't do that because he's not feeling anything. You have to understand that he is a sociopath, psychopath, narcissistic personality. So he doesn't feel emotion like other people, so he can't even fake it. It's so far from his own DNA, he can't even force it to happen. That's why you don't even see the crocodile tears.
Kids' rooms, maybe your wife's articles, anything like that. Is that okay with you? You do understand it's completely voluntary.
I've been waiting to hear something all day, all night. His friends pouring out and reaching out, that's about it.
I'll tell you one thing for certain, I can't imagine what you're going through right now.
The house, I couldn't sleep at all last night. It just didn't feel right. And I'm used to my kids and she's in the high chair and Bella's right there. I missed them throwing chicken nuggets at me, honestly, last night. Thank you for the sweet.
He is bringing up feeding his little girls chicken nuggets to the investigators. There's not a tear. His voice doesn't crack. It's 30 plus hours at this point. This man should be in panic mode. And he's talking about these intimate, special moments with his daughters and just moving forward.
And instead appearing cold to the media that has besieged his home.
It's really hard to even suspect anything right now as far as how she could have left. I want them wherever they're at. Like, I have no inclination of where they're at right now. Like, I've exhausted like every friend that I know of, and every friend that I have has called friends that Shanann has that maybe I didn't know about, and it's just like it's vanished. Like, she's not, like, when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went. It was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here.
Micro expressions of shoulder shrugs. When you see him talking, whatever he's saying and he shrugs right there, you can literally cancel that out. That is a very strong indicator of deception, is a shoulder shrug.
Already the investigation has moved on a significant deal. The security camera footage from Watts' neighbour, Nate, has totally debunked any idea that Shanann and the girls left the house during the day. And Chris's own body language is getting increasingly erratic. It all reeked of foul play, but what was to be the moment that Chris Watts turned from grieving husband to prime suspect? Chris Watts' story that his wife and children simply disappeared while he was at work has already been discredited by the security camera footage of his front door. And the timeline established by Shanann's friend, Nicole, suggests that whatever happened to her happened between 2 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. But how will police prove it? And just where are Shanann and the girls?
Our expert panel is going to track live police footage and analyse events as they unfold. Their expertise will give an unprecedented insight into how detectives cracked one of the most shocking murder cases in recent history.
Is your husband at work right now?
Pamphlets are being handed out around town. Why is Chris not out there doing that?
Well, there's a good reason why, because he already knows where they are. and he doesn't want to be a participant in it. And the other part of it is because it's detached.
But wouldn't it be good for him to continue the lie?
It would be good, but he's not thinking like a normal human being would think.
If she's vanished, like, I want her back so bad. I want those kids back so bad.
So he's not responding. His emotion affect is off. His emotional responses to things is not
I've
right.
never seen something like this in my lifetime unless it was on TV or a movie. And this doesn't seem real at all. It just seems like I'm living in a nightmare and I can't get out of it. I just want them home so bad.
His brain is not working like a normal human being would work, and that's the reason why he's not doing it. You would think that if he were wanted to present a good case, like I'm a concerned father and concerned husband, you'd be out there handing out flyers. But there's some part of him that's very detached from that, and that's the reason why he's not involved.
34-year-old doting mother's car still in the garage.
She left her phone at home, her purse, her wallet. All of her money, her ID.
A mysterious disappearance, leaving a pregnant mother and her children gone without a trace.
So what are they thinking their next steps would be?
At this point, they're thinking potentially to take a more aggressive approach with Chris Watts. Bring him in, take him out of the home, take him to their territory.
We're going to be looking for the man who did this. You can imagine that we're going to include you as that man. I just don't believe some of the things you're telling me. Okay, I just don't. Simply do not believe. So can we talk about two Chris's? And you need to help me know which Chris I'm looking at today and which Chris you really are.
And the Chris you're looking at is the man who loves these kids and loves his wife and will never, ever, ever do anything to harm them.
Take him to the police station.
Why is that
itself.
important?
Because he'll lose any sense of security that he may have had in his home. He's no longer in charge. He's at their place. They have the home field advantage. That's where they're going to conduct maybe some more in-depth questioning and a polygraph examination.
What do I do to help you walk out of this room and not look like the person who's responsible?
You have to trust me that when I tell you that these two beautiful girls right here, I did nothing to them, and to my beautiful wife, I did nothing to her.
Nothing you told me tonight makes sense. Nothing you told me tonight feels like the truth. Can we start over? Where'd you go first?
The 319.
319. Where and what crossroads would that be?
Oh, it's out in the ranch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Survey 319. Okay.
Yeah.
How long were you at Survey 319?
Probably about an hour.
This interaction is crucial. You have agents here effectively telling Chris Watts, we don't believe you.
Well, they're continuing to inquire. You have Agent Coder and Agent Lee, the lead investigators in this case. The questions thus far have been softball questions.
Yes.
Okay, it's time to play hardball.
And they accuse him of a double life, a twisted double life. Two Chris's, they say.
Yes. And Chris continues to say, you're looking at a man who loves his kids. You're looking at a man who loves his wife.
The love you have for your kids is going to be like exponential. I mean, it'll, no matter what, that will never die. Bella and Celeste is the light of my life.
Are you lying about the last time you saw Shanann?
No. I do not know where they are at. If I could have my babies back home right now, I would. I want them back. I want everybody back.
I gotta tell you, that sounds like a load of horse.
Like, you have to trust me and believe me. Like, I know you don't know me as a person. Like, they vanished. They were taken. Someone has taken them. They're safe somewhere. We don't know. I had nothing to do with this act.
If you're not responsible and your wife and children are missing, you would explode at this point. You would say, what are you talking about? I don't know where they're at. Why are you pointing the finger at me? He is calm, cool, and collective. This time, Dylan, this is when the polygraph examination is conducted.
Okay. So you're going to be taking what's called a directed lie polygraph. So what that means is there are going to be questions on the test where I want you to lie. Because I want to see what your body looks like when you tell a lie on the test.
Okay.
So we're going to go over a pretest now.
The questions are carefully tailored, and it is a powerful because you're breaking down their defenses. They're saying, not only do we suspect you're lying, science says you're lying.
So you obviously are a really bad liar. Have people told you that before? Like the second you tell a lie, like they can tell like on your face that, because the second you lied to them, number 3, like I don't know if you heard me clicking, but I had to like turn down the sensitivity because you're starting to go off the page. So that is what I need to see as a polygrapher, because that tells me that you know it's wrong to tell a lie, and you're actually having a significant reaction when you lie. So that is awesome. So thank you for being a horrible liar. No, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We don't want to be good liars. So thank you for being a horrible liar. And that just shows me that, you know, obviously on the test when they're asking, you know, significant stuff about your wife, if you're lying to that, it's going to be even 10 times more amplified. All right, you ready?
And they do a process of normative questions. So they're trying to find that normal baseline behavior to determine how he lies, because everyone lies differently. No one lies the same. They're trying to figure out how he lies.
Did you physically cause Shanann's disappearance?
No.
Do you know where Shanann is now?
No.
Are you lying about the last time you saw Shanann?
No.
Do you know where Shanann is now?
No.
Are you lying about the last time you saw Shanann?
No.
Do you know where Shanann is now?
No.
Did you physically cause Shanann's disappearance?
No.
Do you know where Shanann? Are you lying about the last time you physically caused Shanann? Do you know where? Are you lying about the last time you saw Shannann's disappearance? So I brought Graham in here because we want to talk to you about the results, okay?
Sure.
It is completely clear that you were not honest during the testing, and I think you already know that. You did not pass the polygraph test.
Okay.
Okay. So now we need to talk about what actually happened. I feel like you're probably ready to do that.
I didn't lie to you on that polygraph, I promise.
Chris,
I know.
Chris, stop. It's time. Just stop for a minute. Take a deep breath.
There's a reason you feel sick to your stomach. And when people hold stuff inside, it makes you physically ill. And I can just tell on your face, I could tell from the second you walked in that you were wanting to just come clean. Like, don't let this continue any longer, please.
I'm not trying to make anything continue.
I know you love me. And you're not faking that, are you? That's real. But you are here today lying about something else. So we need to talk about that, okay? About your daughter. I know. And she's very good.
I'm not proud of it.
Keep going.
She accused me of it. I denied it. I cheated on her, and I feel horrible for it. Like, she was pregnant. It didn't hurt her.
We learned some crucial details during the course of this interrogation, and that is that he's taken his mistress, Nikki, to dinner just a couple of days before Shanann returned home. And she actually had confronted him about this, we now know.
Well, you can't simply focus on the August 13th dates when you're looking at this particular case. Chris Watts began a relationship with Nicole Kessinger. He was having an affair with her. He fell in love with her. And during the month of July, Shanann went on a vacation back to North Carolina for 5 weeks. So Chris Watts had a taste of life without the responsibility of raising children or being married. He used that opportunity to spend that time with Nicole Kessinger, and he says fall deeply in love with her and want to forge ahead on a life with her.
Finally, it seems Chris Watts is cracking. The police suspected almost from the very first visit to his home that Chris was not telling the truth, and now they have the undeniable proof. And now he's admitted to having an affair, which gives him a motive for murder. The disappearance of Shanann, Bella and Celeste Watts was riddled with odd questions from the start. The security camera footage from Watts' neighbour, Nate, has totally debunked any idea that Shanann and the girls left the house during the day.
This is him at 517.
You did not pass the polygraph test.
I just don't believe some of the things you're telling me.
It is completely clear that you were not honest during the testing, and I think you already know that.
He's taken his mistress, Nikki, to dinner just a couple of days before Shanann returned home. And she actually had confronted him about this, we now know.
I cheated on her, and I feel horrible for it. Like, she was pregnant. It didn't hurt her.
Our expert panel is going to track live police footage and analyse events as they unfold. Their expertise will give an unprecedented insight into how detectives cracked one of the most shocking murder cases in recent history.
Agents Lee and Coda are now close to finally cracking this case, but they still need a confession. And they're both still horribly aware that somewhere out there are the bodies of Shanann and the 2 little girls.
That was what I was holding back. Like, I didn't know, like, what I did. I know.
Chris, in the interview today, you weren't asked about infidelity. You were asked about...
I was holding back from last night.
You lied to everyone you talked to. And they all bought it. Will you please help us find your babies?
I've told you over and over, I want to find them.
Chris, I lose my 4-year-old in the store for 10 seconds and I start to go panic. I have not seen any of that from you at all.
I love those girls. I would never do anything just because I haven't shed a tear.
Yeah, no, that's weird. Is that weird?
Don't look into that like I don't love my kids.
Tell
I love
me,
my wife.
explain to me. You're crying with your wife that you're leaving her.
Yeah.
But you don't cry that your 2 little baby girls.
I'm hoping they're still around somewhere. I'm hoping they're still somewhere.
The only way they could have left is in your truck.
There's no way, because like I didn't just throw them in my truck. I love those girls to death.
Then show us that. Show us that. Show us this Chris, not this Chris.
I'm not showing you that Chris. I'm showing you the Chris that cares about his girls and his wife. Just because I haven't shed a tear, it shouldn't make you feel like I haven't, that the love isn't there for them.
It's weird. It doesn't make sense.
I understand that.
You have to.
I totally see where you're coming from.
They weren't there. They didn't leave. They vanished.
Can I ask my dad or something?
Now, this was a significant tactic the investigators used. Agent Coder said to him, if I bring in your father, promise me you're going to talk to him. And Chris assured him that he would. So the cameras kept rolling.
Polygraph. Failed it. Yeah, because there's too much emotion. It's crying. They're not going to let me go. You don't want to protect me. I don't know what else to say. She heard him? Yeah. Come on now. You heard that? They moved after that. She started her kids. Every. One. She smelled it. Or choking.
It was Agent Lee who gave Chris Watts the idea to blame his wife for the murder of their 2 daughters.
Did Shanann do something to them?
No, I don't know.
I'm serious.
I have no clue.
No, you would have known, because they didn't leave the house. Did Shanann do something to them, and then did you feel like you had to do something to Shanann?
No, that's the they came back up. They were gone. I freaked out. Wasn't my kid. She freaked out over the separation of them. I don't think it was, she laid back down, but that's not the top stage. But she found out. I'm choking like that. What did she tell him? They're blue. Both of them. Yeah. She took both of them at that. I freaked out because she didn't.
She now is playing kind of a mothering role, so that sense of touch that kinesthetic moment right there is saying, it's okay, you can talk, lower the voices, get it off your chest, you feel so much better. And then you see his body language collapse, and then he starts to then cover his face, shame and guilt and confession.
Laying there. She's hot. She's in the wood. On top of her. She's out. Laying there right on top of her. She's food. Food. Food.
And the other thing you have to realize, Grandpa's just being told that his 2 grandbabies are dead.
Right.
And finding their bodies.
And that his son was involved.
Right.
And so the emotion that man must be feeling at this point is unthinkable.
I'm shaking. My kids hurt. They're gone. She hurt my kids. Like everything from her. What happened after she was involved? And then, no one could do it. She's back and couldn't look at her. So horrible for what I did. And my kids. She did. Didn't know what to do.
We have left details where they're at.
We can help you get them out of the cold. They're gone. There's no bringing them back.
Well, where are they?
That first location I went to that day.
Their goal is to find out what happened. And they have spent days now looking for these children and their mother. They now know. They have answers. The version of events that Chris Watts provided, that Shanann killed the children first and then he suffocated her, is incredible and uncredible. But the investigators have to run that down, because you don't see, at this point, Chris Watts may test his case before a jury. You have to run down the version of events that he provided.
How you doing, face me?
And we actually see police try and recreate the potential for the scenario that he has presented inside the house.
And the reason they do that, Dylan, is because we have to prove our cases beyond a reasonable doubt. We have to show the jury not only is Chris Watts responsible for Shanann's death, we ran down the truth about his version of the children's, and we found that to be uncredible.
Agents Lee and Coda have their confession, and Watts is arrested. He's also told them where to find the bodies of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste, dumped like trash in an oil silo. But one thing doesn't ring true. Would Shanann really have killed her daughters? From the very first moment police officers met Chris Watts outside his home, he has been lying to them. And almost from that moment, they've known it. Was he now telling the truth about what really happened the night his wife and 2 daughters died? He'd confessed to killing Shanann, but says it was an act of revenge after she smothered Bella and Celeste. Our expert panel is going to track live police footage and analyse events as they unfold. Their expertise will give an unprecedented insight into how detectives cracked one of the most shocking murder cases in recent history.
Okay. Whereabouts is Shanann and the girls? Okay, can you mark it for me? Okay, and where are the girls at? In these?
Are they in the tanks? Can somebody who doesn't know what they're doing open those?
The sheep found down here? Where's that from?
That was what Chanel was wrapped in.
What about the girls? What were they wrapped in? Just in their pajamas? Not with their blankets or anything?
It's not uncommon for someone to come halfway to the truth, but to try and negate their role or justify what they've done. So investigators had to run down the information that was provided by Chris Watts and test the evidence. They took the sheets to determine whether or not the version of events is consistent. What are you looking for on those sheets? You're looking for DNA, you're looking for blood evidence, you're looking for any indicia that there was a struggle within that particular sheet. Chris Watts, shortly after this confession and this version of events, then pled guilty to the 9 counts he was charged with. It's not clear what particular piece of evidence, what piece of information, or what prompted that plea. There's not a piece of evidence that would have taken his ability to maintain certain defenses away, but he did a 180 and pled guilty.
Police in Colorado say they have found 2 bodies they believe are the daughters of Christopher and Shanann Watts. Christopher Watts reportedly confessed Thursday to killing his pregnant wife and 2 daughters.
Closure is, I mean, my parents still think, like, I've told them I pled guilty for a reason.
Right.
They seem to take it, okay.
What made you do that, Chris? What made you plead guilty?
I didn't want anybody else to. I didn't want them to go through this for 2 or 4 years. I didn't want my attorneys to lie for me for 3 or 4 years.
I think if we had a time machine, I don't think this would happen again. Because some people, when this happens, you're like, well, if it wasn't this time, it would have been next time, or it would have been the next time. It's just wouldn't have happened with you, would it?
Life will never be the same without Shannon, Bella, and Celeste and Nico. Had all their lives to live. They were taken by a heartless one. This is the heartless one, the evil monster, who dare you take the lives of my daughter Shannon, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them.
Baby. You wanna give the baby a hug? I love you, Bella. You're so sweet.
Now, according to Chris Watts' lawyer, Chris confessed to killing Shanann after an argument regarding a potential divorce. And during the murder, shockingly, it was Bella who walked in. Watts told his daughter that her mother was sick. He loaded Shanann's lifeless body into the back of his work truck and his daughter's without car seats in the back. It was then he smothered both children with a blanket in the back of the truck.
What you have here is the killing of Shanann and then driving Bella and Celeste 45 minutes to the work site. The children were awake in the car. He talks about Bella being awake, asking him what's wrong with mommy, to the point where he says he smothered Celeste first, then Bella. Bella witnessed Celeste being smothered. And she said to Chris Watts, "Are you gonna do what you did to Celeste to me?" And then her last words were, "Daddy, no."
Bella and Celeste were just 4 and 3 years old when their father murdered them, along with their mother and their unborn baby brother. Thanks to the determination and professionalism of the Frederick PD, Chris Watts was found guilty of their murders, and he will now spend the rest of his life in prison. And perhaps Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and that unborn child may finally find some peace.
My daddy is a hero. He helps me grow up strong. Yeah, go! Go! Go!